What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. And man, if you're into GI Joe at all, it's been an awesome last few years. So many great figures coming to the classified series line from Hasbro. It's just like this is what we always wanted. GI Joe in 6-inch form, and they're killing it with the designs, the sculpting, the accessories, now vehicles, and it's just everything that I've wanted from this ever since we started with the Star Wars Black Series figures. And they're killing it. And this Thursday, we got a new live stream coming, which is going to have more reveals, more pre-orders, probably some more name-only announcements. So I can't wait for Thursday. Of course, I'm going to do an immediate reaction video. And then later on, I'm going to have our typical Thursday night live where we all can talk and share our excitement about whatever's shown this Thursday. I don't have to wait until then to be hyped up about G.I. Joe. I was opening up and finally reviewing my retro Lady J figure while I'm watching in my office, my studio here, watching the cartoons of G.I. Joe and reminiscing about my excitement yesterday when I read Duke #3. I'll have my review up on LylesMovieFiles.com on Wednesday, but man, if you've been a G.I. Joe fan and just loved reading any of the comic books, you've got to read Duke. You've got to read Cobra Commander. Of course, the real American hero, continuing from Larry Hama. But Joshua Williamson is writing Duke and Cobra Commander. I feel like each week they alternate between which is my favorite. This last issue of Duke is just killer. And what I love about it is the Energon universe with Void Rivals, with Transformers, and Duke and Cobra Commander so far are putting all these universes into a pot, just stirring and showing how real world, how these things will come together in the modern contemporary time. And it's been so good. And there are characters, and it's like, oh man, I think I see how this connects. And then Williamson takes it down a different path, but it's still really cool. And it's really exciting to see how all of this is coming together. And it's really come together very, very smooth. But I think my favorite part of it is how they're incorporating Tom Riley, the artist, is incorporating the classified series design. So it's like, ooh, I've got this figure. So that's really fun. And again, Cobra Commander #2 came out this week. Real American Hero 304 came out this week. Duke #3 comes out on Wednesday. So if you've been thinking about it, buy and believe the hype. They're that good. They're that awesome. And let me know if you picked them up after you saw this video. Anyway, because I've been in this G.I. Joe state of mind, I wanted to do a video, and I've had a question in the queue for way too long. I've actually been writing up my list in response to it. I just needed to take the time out to arrange, put my rankings in order here to address this topic. And as always, if you have any questions or show ideas you want to throw my way, want to get my thoughts, whether for live or for recording like this, let me know. I'm happy to break it down and try to do my best to answer it. So this one came from Norbert the Tank. Norbert the Tank. And it said, should make a video of 10 characters that Hasbro should make in the classified series that never was made but was in the cartoons. I took liberty with one, but I thought, oh, this is a really fun topic. And I've got tons of characters. So many that I couldn't fit them into 10, but I decided I figure there's going to be a lot of overlap between some of my choices and some you all might have. So let's not throw them all out there in case some people have some other suggestions that I didn't mention in my top 10. And this is a lot of fun. And I wasn't quite sure how I was going to rank these characters as I started, but I was like, all right, let's see where we go and figure out how it all comes together. So let's start with number 10. And that's got to be Dr. Vandermeer. You know, as a longtime G.I. Joe fan, the original miniseries was so much fun, and the excitement of every day a new installment hitting. And Dr. Vandermeer, definitely not a Joe, but he was the scientist that put together this big Deus Ex Machina device, the mass device, which teleported Cobras and Joes all over. It was crazy, just showing you how these plots would work for the cartoon. The whole premise of G.I. Joe, it was so wild. Now, I think Dr. Vandermeer would make for a great classified series character because he serves a lot of great purposes, not the least of which he provides a scientist body who would be very useful, which would be very useful for Dr. Venom. And of course, there are other scientists we could always throw in there, but when the cartoon was littered, it felt like every other episode, there's a scientist getting kidnapped and captured by Cobra. So Dr. Vandermeer should be the first one. Um, and the classified series team really likes to have fun with their accessories and things that are like, oh, that's really cool. You guys threw that in there. I think a fun accessory with him would be this small canister that Snake Eyes brings in, but also an alternate Major Blood head sculpt because back before Zartan showed up, Major Blood was running around as the master of disguise for Cobra. And, we could have him in the mask or just like a Major Blood head sculpt with him. So that would be fun. But if for whatever reason Hasbro is not convinced that, hey, who's going to buy a scientist figure, they could throw him in a deluxe pack. Not the full HasLab presentation, maybe $100 offering like Vamp and Clutch. So here's my suggestion. The mass device. And this was a really massive thing. And we got this from Hasbro already as part of a build a set line. And this was really cool to get this. And it fit in just fine with the 3.75 inch figures. I still have it. They had all the catalytic elements. It was so much fun to put this together and be like, wow, I've got this. And it was the G.I. Joe DVD adventure set, I think is what it actually was called. But so much fun to have this in hand with my original size Joes. So I would love to see this for the classified series line. And I think that would be a fun inclusion, probably a Pulse exclusive. I can't imagine Target having this, but I think a lot of us would buy this just some odds of being able to have something from our deepest childhood memories of G.I. Joe. So we've got Dr. Vandermeer, and I think he would be a really good way to kick things off. And another one, and I think this character would make a lot of sense because this allows Hasbro to come up with a new buck and something that would be fun for other characters. They could repaint the mess out of this figure once they get this mold and just make a few changes. And I think this is one we can see used later for Underwater Lady J Scarlet. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about now. That's Mara, the Cobra eel who got genetically altered to have blue skin, fell in love with Shipwreck, and later got made into a synthezoid and, who was convincing Shipwreck he had a perfect life and all that stuff. But anyway, really fun. I think she'd be great because she's got a basic look and an easy, simple sculpt that could be reused over and over again. And, I think the Hasbro Classified Series team has done an awesome job of incorporating parts and elements and reusing them in a way that makes sense. But here we've got the standard buck for our undersea women soldiers. And we've already seen this with the Cobra Valkyries. They're not afraid to come up with newer, different subsections. We've got a Hiss tactician. I think that's the female in that part. But, we can get some women eels as well. And this would allow us to get the Baroness in her underwater gear. So Mara, I think, would be a very useful character and someone else to partner up with Shipwreck. So I think she'd be a really fun inclusion. So we got her in there. And then we're talking about G.I. Joe women who haven't had figures. And this one is just a fun inclusion for me. Not really serious one. Not one I have to have. But, this is also harkening back to a mini-series. And that's why she's over someone who probably had a more important role in a one-off or 2 episodes. Of course, I'm talking about Honda Lou West. And with the finest fiddles you've ever seen. And Honda Lou is just a fun character. She helped Roadblock and the Joes out during that whole Weather Dominator mini-series. And that was also super fun. And it took a lot of work to find images of Honda Lou West, but this is her great gift. Thanks for what? All I've got from you is a commercial and a lot of sex. I'm with G.I. Joe. So, I mean, I love that interaction. Maybe put her in a two-pack with Roadblock. We've got Tiger Force, Roadblock, and Tripwire in a pack. I would pay for cartoon color Roadblock, and Honolulu West. And apologies if my voice sounds weird. I bit my tongue so bad, and it's making me get a funky lisp going. So you can work around that. I hope so, but that's why I might be sounding just a little bit weird to you. It's not like I'm trying to do a Cobra Commander impersonation. Next up, and this is number 7, it's another woman. And, it's funny how many interesting and integral women we saw throughout the course of the cartoon that never got figures. But I think Super 7 has done this, but for a classified series, for an all out one, we need one. And again, this provides another generic kind of buck body that they could keep using. Maybe they give her a separate helmet. So we have a generic one, but we have a unique one for her as well. You got it. I'm talking about Raven. She was the Night Raven pilot who had a really fun episode with Slipstream. They had to team up, and we kind of left it up in the air at the end of the episode whether she was going to join the Joes. So that could be really fun to see the continuing adventures of Raven. But she would make for a really fun figure because Hasbro then has their default mold where they can go, all right, cool. We've got more female Night Raven pilots, and or she's at the Strato Viper pilot. But I love that suit. I thought that was a really cool outfit. So that would be a really good one to add in there. Yes, she's got a crutch. That's something they could also toss in. They don't go as hard with Hasbro. It's Super 7 cartoon specific accessories, but I think for Raven, this would be a really cool addition. So that way we kind of prompt them to get Slipstream in the mix as well, but Raven would be a great addition to our fledgling cartoon only line. And with the cartoon only line, I've got to get a character who was in multiple episodes, who was kind of a nuisance, kind of a watchdog, if you will, the Geraldo Rivera ripoff himself. I'm talking about Hector Ramirez. And you could throw him in. And again, he's a suit body, so that's probably something they could work in. We haven't seen a lot of like swappable heads, but maybe you can use this base body for Tomax and Zaymont in their extensive enterprises look. But Hector was a real nuisance. He was in so many issues or episodes of G.I. Joe, tormenting the Joes, tormenting Shipwreck, and that'd be really fun to get him in the mix. Of course, he'd have to come with his microphone. They want to throw in some of his camera crew. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but maybe this is one where you package with a cartoon color edition Flint. That way you can still get some, get a character who might not sell all on his own with someone that people would want. So cartoon edition Flint would be based off the upcoming, that I'm going to speak into existence, retro Flint that we haven't gotten yet. Maybe we'll see him this Thursday. But I think that'd be another good way to work him in the mix and throw him in so we can get a Hector Ramirez figure as well. And we got to get to one of my favorites. You might not know this, but my favorite of the G.I. Joe miniseries was Pyramid of Darkness, because that prominently featured my favorite wave of Joes of the 1985 crew: Quick Kick, Alpine Bazooka, Footloose, Airtight, Dusty, the whole gang, Lady J, Shipwreck, all the whole gang. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around how some of those characters got worked into different scenarios. Like Quick Kick was featured in the Arctic environment, and Dusty, the desert troopers up in space. Who cared about that logic? It was fun work him in there. But one who was not a member of the Joes, but someone I really want to have in my collection, is Satin. And Satin would be fun because I think she offers some real exclusive possibilities. Maybe she would be a great deluxe option for people who wanted to go deep dive into cartoon love. We get a poster with Satin on the couch. We give her a hat. She doesn't need a lot of accessories on her own except for her purse to wallop Cobra Commander. But I think Satin would make for really fun deluxe, because we could get her out with the full disguises for Shipwreck, the big curly blonde wig he's got, give Snake Eyes the full Boy George look, the hat for Timber. I mean, I would buy that set shockingly fast, maybe embarrassingly fast, because That was just such a weird moment in G.I. Joe cartoon lore, but I would buy that set. And Saturn was up in the mix. I mean, she was getting toe to toe with Slash. Slush, that's Slash. Get her, and then she's going after Cobra Commander. And yeah, she'd be fun. And I really like Saturn. I thought she was a cool character. And she has one of my favorite songs in all the G.I. Joe lore, The Cobra That Got Away. So love to see it and hope that Saturn does not go away from my wish list possibilities from the G.I. Joe Classified series line. Next up, we're on the home stretch, number 4. And this is a character who's was prominently featured, probably deserves a figure. Again, he's one that could function really well. There's some double dipping that Hasbro could do because I'm really looking out for the Classified Series team in terms of mold reuse for characters that they want to cycle in and out again. So this one, I think, provides a military outfit that maybe with a little bit of paint changes, they could use for Marine Corps dress blues version of Gung Ho, General Flag. But of course, I'm talking about Colonel Sharp. And, this is another one where you get a swappable part. So we have that Zartan head from the cartoon with more, where his hood is more like hair, and swap it out with the head of Colonel Sharp. So we got both versions, the evil version of Colonel Sharp. I only needed your voice. So, yeah, Colonel Sharp, somebody. I'm surprised we never got in the line, but he would be really fun and a great addition, one that I definitely would want to see in this set. And next up is a character that kind of doesn't make any sense because the Joes had this specialty already covered, already checked off right from the original team. But for whatever reason, the cartoon designers were like, we need this specialty filled, even though there's a joke right here that does the same thing. I'm talking about Sparks. And Sparks is about as plain and generic as you could possibly want. But he's got a backpack that he wears while he's sitting at the desk. He's got the comm rig that Breaker has. He's got a harness piece. He's got mixed match colors from our standard Joes. But Sparks was cool, and Sparks was a fun Joe doing stuff and taking care of things on missions. And he never went out. He's just sitting at the desk, and he's like Breaker's support staff, sitting there chilling. But I would want a Sparks figure just because, I like the cartoon, and Sparks was a good addition to the cartoon crew. And I'm going to go with he was the understudy for Breaker, who was teaching him the ropes and rocking his pack. And it's just so weird. We've got Breaker, who could do all the stuff that Sparks does, but I still want a Sparks figure all the same. So, yeah. That's funny how the cartoon just influences so much. I've got Breaker, but I still need the pit or the Joe headquarters communication guy who never leaves the desk. And maybe Sparks would be an interesting character. I know we don't necessarily do this, like they haven't done this kind of thing in the Classified series line, but maybe Sparks would be a character who they can incorporate some realism in the G.I. Joe mythos and maybe have Sparks using a wheelchair, since he just is at headquarters. So maybe they could incorporate a wheelchair mold and put Sparks in that where he's using it. And I think that could be something they could do different with Sparks. And, hey, this is cool. We're reflecting that the combat is not a joke and they do get hurt. So Sparks could maybe have a prosthetic leg or something, but he's using a wheelchair. Anyway, just throwing it out there as an idea to make Sparks work a little bit different. Now, another edition is probably going to need to be a deluxe. I'm not quite sure. Do I want it as a 2-pack or do I want it as a 3-pack? You'll see as I show you which one my number 2 choice is, and that is the Fatal Fluffies. Fatal Fluffies, what's that? So we've got these default little kid, the cute Ewok versions of the Fatal Fluffies, and yeah, I want them, but do I want like multiples in them? And then of course, if I got those, do I have 1 or 2 of these Fatal Fluffies? Do I have one? I mean, they've got to have some serious accessories. They've got to have the whip. They've got to have the flame exhaust breath. They've got to have the guns, maybe with the laser blaster effect as well. But maybe we could pack 2 of them in there so we could army build Fatal Fluffies and then have like one giant one and then the small little kid version, the little baby fluffy version. I don't know, but there's lots of display elements with these guys. So They got a tower over the normal Joes. Something like these would make for a pretty interesting deluxe presentation. So we get them and, have them hanging out next to Zartan on Space Station Delta and doing their thing. So Fatal Fluffies Deluxe, what do you guys think? 2-pack, 3-pack? Which way would you want to see them? Or do you not want to see them at all? And my number one, and this was my cheat because there has been a figure of this guy, but not specifically in the dedicated Real American Hero line. This was like an exclusive set that, Collectors Club did later on, not necessarily through the whole branch and distribution of Hasbro. You know what I'm talking about. It's one of my favorite jersey clad Joes. It's the one and only Big Lob. And we've got Chuckles, we've got Tony Rat, we've got Jinx now. And we're just missing Law and Order, and I'm assuming we're going to get them real soon. We've got Beachhead here, but we might be getting a retro one of him soon, maybe Thursday. But Big Lob was so much fun. He was such a cool character. And I mean, his costume was really basic, but his whole running sports commentary deal was awesome. And maybe throw an electrified fence with him. But the whole deal, I've seen some really fun customs where people went way off with the hair and just had it going out even more prominently, kind of like he was a sports star today. So I thought that look would be really fun. But Big Lob is just got a cool look to him. He's got the sling with the grenade, typical standard basic Joe attire. He's got a jersey, basketball jersey, so that's a different look. We haven't seen that from the rest of them. Bazooka, Red Dog, they're rocking football jerseys. They're free to. I still hope we see football jerseys. So we can incorporate now our first basketball jersey in the team. Maybe we can borrow some of those from the started lineup line. Anyway, so that's my top 10 cartoon only Joes that I want to see Hasbro eventually get to in the classified series line. They're doing really great work with the existing figures, but we're starting to see them do, hey, this character wasn't in the Real American Hero line. Let's go ahead and throw them in there. So I think that these 10 would be viable options, at least to get included, maybe one or two of them in here the next 2 or 3 years, because they're going to hit a point where they've done all the additions, all the different lineups from 82 to 87 and 89. I think that's the sweet spot for a lot of collectors. Then it's, do we go with the garish neon colors, or do we start dabbling into other mythos, other areas, corners of the G.I. Joe lore? I think this is a good way to get some of those characters out and create some army builder, new bucks that we haven't seen. Female Strato Viper, female EO, our general type character. It's got a lot of stars, stripes, and bars on there. So a lot of options there. So hopefully we'll see some of them. Let me know what you guys thought. Which 10 would you want to see, or what's your number one that you want to see from the cartoon series? Get a classified series figure, and I'm going to go so I can start working on my comic book characters that I want to see in the classified series line. For now, thank you so much as always for watching. I will definitely be back on here Thursday because there's going to be a lot to talk about, a lot to be hyped about with the new classified series feels on Leap Day, not Labor Day. That's way too far off. Anyway, as always, thanks so much for watching this episode of Loud's Figure Files. Has been filed.